Yay, we're live now. So welcome back everyone. It's been a while. So over the past few weeks we've been going through HTML and it's been an interesting journey. So I've made like several videos while coding along on Free Code Camp. So I always say for absolute beginners, so either you're on your phone or you have like a slow network, whatever you have a little computer, Free Code Camp just give access to everyone to be able to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and a lot of other tech courses absolutely for free. So that's the reason why also I like, okay, starting up from fresh, creating courses. There are a lot of amazing courses online already. Free Code can just do great stuff. So as you can see here, they have like over 8,000 tutorials. So either you're a beginner to pro, everything you need to be a great software engineer in 2022 from beginner to advanced level is on Free Code Camp. So what I aim to do is just to make your learning more interactive and fun, and also to be able to like give more explanation into some of these concepts and while I code along. So you also can actually go to freecodecamp.org, create an account, and then you can code along with me, and then you can come watch the video to be able to like get some of these concepts that we talk about. So for this particular session, we are going to be talking about CSS, cascading style sheet. CSS is amazing. So after we've done HTML, I think it's better we do CSS and then we move to JavaScript. But then CSS is really huge, so we're going to be spending a lot of time doing a lot of CSS stuff. And FreeCode can just make it awesome to do. So they have this workshop like tutorials with code alongs. So we have like 92 sessions in this first one. So this is for us to learn the basic of CSS. So it's going to be amazing. And it's going to be a long journey also. So, and then after that, we are going to do all of this, learn CSS colors by building a set of colored markers. And then also we're going to do form. HTML forms. We've done HTML forms before, but then we didn't really do it in depth. And I think there's just so much to do about forms here. Then we build this, there's a project that you can work on, and then there are some other courses, so which is really good. So this version of Free Code Camp is the beta version. So this is the new latest. You can see it's 2022. So they're just building this, which I think is really, really cool. It's modern. So, but there's nothing wrong. You can continue to learn from it. But then maybe we could run into some kind of bugs. I don't know. But I think it's a very good platform that we can do. Even for me, I'm just using it for the first time. So, but then the previous stable version is here. If you click on this, you can go to the previous stable version. So, but for you to go to this new version, if you go to the Free Code Camp website, learn. So look at it here, responsive web design. So it's at the bottom. So it's the new version. You can see beta version, and it's really amazing. I like it. So even because this is the new version, I'm going to record the HTML version. So they have this HTML version. So learn HTML by building a cat photo. So I'm going to redo this in the stretch, because we've done this before part by part, but then I'm going to record this HTML tutorial in the stretch so that we can have one video that do all of this. So, and then so this basically is for CSS, and this video is basically for introducing CSS, and then so that we can have our computer set up and our Free Code Camp accounts. So if you just go to freecodecamp.org, you can create accounts. If you don't, I already create my own account. I've been on Free Code Camp for a while. So and I joined 2017. That's interesting. So yeah, so that's me. You also can create your own account, and then you can follow this. So after creating your account, then you can go to all of these courses. There are amazing courses here. If you remember, if you're following along before, you see that this is what we've been using before, but then I think the new version, which is this below, is even more better, and this is what we're going to be using to learn CSS. And then I will record the HTML version again, but then that will be in a one stretch video. So I will do all of this in one stretch video, probably today or tomorrow, we'll see. But then this is just like introduction to what is coming. So for the CSS version, I will try and record multiple videos in parts. So I don't want to make the video too long, but at the same time, people get confused when we have, because they don't know where to start or where to begin. So, but then I will try to, like, I've named the video in succession. So you see part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. So that way it's more easier, because I don't want the video to be too long, that it to be too boring to follow along. So, but we will see how it's gonna go. So to get started, after that, you could just click on the first one. So this is what we are going to be coding. Is a menu for a camper cafe. So a menu where you can just like give menu to know what is for lunch or what you could buy, and this is dessert. So we are going to use HTML and CSS to do this. So if you haven't done any HTML before, go to my channel and go and look at the HTML courses and go through it. Or you can also go through Free Code Camp, and then you could learn HTML there. But this course is going to be some HTML, but then we are going to focus more on CSS actually as we go along. So the new this beta version have new interface. It's really amazing. So I really love the way they do it. It's really good. So it's better design interface, better space for you to code and everything. So let's see how it works. So when you see the preview, here's a preview of what we are building, and then you can just click on start coding. Yeah, so this is our index.html page. So index.html, that means that's the HTML page. And then I think they said this is the console. This is the console. I think the console is, let me see where the console. Oh, okay, console preview. So preview console. Okay, yeah, this is the console here. This is the console where we see the output of our test result. Then this is the preview of whatever we are building. They will show up here. And then this is our HTML page. So we click on this, this is the HTML page. So this is where we code. You can see the code line. So you can click enter, then you see 2 and 3, and then you can go back and forth also. So I think this interface is actually intuitive. It's amazing. It's really cool. And then we have the instruction here. We follow the instruction, and then we can go ahead. And that's exactly what we are going to be doing in this course. So let's set up our HTML. So following this instruction. So as you can remember, if you've done the HTML course with me, and if you have not, I will highly recommend that you go do that HTML course. So it's really simple. So we need to add our doc type for our HTML. So if you don't know what doc type is, that means you've not done the HTML course. So I will advise you to go and do that. So this is the instruction. We need to have our HTML tag also in this, and this is what we need to do. So we have our doc type, and then we have our HTML tag. So we can check our code here. It said yes, everything works as expected. So then for us to continue, after if your code is green, that means everything is fine. So when it's fine, this step is already completed, and then you can submit your code and then move to the next one. How cool is that? So this interface is actually amazing. So you can see this is what we've done already. This is our HTML. So we have the instruction like a comment in our code, and then we can code in between. So you can see that. So this is line 3. So in line 3, so the instruction is add the head element within the HTML element. So you can add a title element. So, you know, when we have your HTML, then we have the head. So if you don't understand what the head means, we advise you take that HTML course, but then I can give some explanation to what head means. So after doing this, so let me do this, and then we have our close tab. So in head, and then we need to close our head section also. So now when you have your HTML, so we have this doc type, we have the opening HTML, which shows like, oh, this page, everything is HTML. And within the HTML is actually divided into 2 sections. So the first section is the head section, and the second section is the body section. So the head section is what sets title of your head, meta tags, and description of that particular HTML page that you are trying to build. So now here we have our title, so Camper Cafe menu. So this title is, if you look at this, learn basic CSS by building something. This is the title. So the same thing with this title will always show up at the top of your browser of the head. So that is what that means. So, and also, as you know, in HTML, there are some tags that are like opening tag, and then we have the closing tag. The same thing, we have the title opening tag, and we have the title closing tag. So that is one thing to note. And then the content comes in between. And also another concept to understand in HTML is that we have the parent tag, and then we have the children tag. So like HTML, for instance, here is the parent, and then head is nested inside HTML, which is the children. And also head is like a parent tag for title. So we can check our code now. Everything works fine, and then we can submit this code and move to the next one. So, which is good. So within our head title, like I said, we can still add some other thing also. So we can also add some other thing. The other thing we can add into it is we call meta. So you said we should add the meta. So with an attribute. So we talked about attribute, if you remember. So so now you can if you remember, we have this title. Title is basically like open title and then close title. But the difference from title to meta is that meta is a self-closing element. So we have some elements that are like self-closing. So like meta is one of them. You still come across some of them as we code along, and then I'm going to explain that to you. So so what we're trying to say is that this page is going to be encoded in UTF-8. So if you over this, so this attribute declares, so attribute is whatever you put in your HTML elements, and like this, that have a reference like equal to, this is an attribute. So this attribute declares the page character encoding. So the character encoding we are using for this our page is what we call UTF-8. You can Google about UTF-8 and learn more about it. So after we're done, we can just click on submit. You can see everything is still green and we're good, and then we can submit and then we go. That's okay. So yeah, so if you want to like donate to Free Code Camp, is amazing, but then just ask me later for now. So this is good. So we have now our HTML been set already, and we have everything we need for our header, for our head section. Sorry, not header, head section. So we have the head. Inside the head we have the meta, and then we have title. So the title give us the title of the page on the browser tab, and the meta shall set do the UTF encoding, the character encoding for this website, which is UTF-8. So the next thing we need to do to prepare to create some actual content is to add the body element. Just like I said, after head we always have the body. So the head section sets up some properties about this page, and the body actually help us to define actual content we want to appear in our HTML page. So, and body need to be closed, and then I need to spell this correctly. So this is how this works. So see body as everything. Look at this here. This web page, for instance. I'm talking about this web page, free code camp. Everything between this navbar to the end of this page are what is appearing in the body. So just see it like that. So everything that is going to display on your page will be encoded, will be children of the body. And everything you see at the top here will be used by the browser itself to encode and to display and to tell your browser about this page. And you can see at the top of the bar here, that is where the menu, the title comes and show up. So that's just the idea about the body. So let's check what we have done. This works fine now, and then we can submit this. Good. So now we can start writing actual HTML. So if you have difficulty following along, just go and check out the HTML5 HTML beginners course. It will give you everything you need about each attribute, about how they work. I have in-depth explanation about all of these things. And also I promised I'm going to do a full recording of the beta version of the HTML. So from beginning to end in one video. I'm going to live stream it here on my YouTube channel. So try and subscribe and turn on the notifications so that when I do a live streaming or I've done a recording, you can get instant notification about them. And if there is any explanation I make that you don't really understand and it feels tricky or something, just try and put a comment in this video, then I will try to like explain or give you links or references or give more clarification on that. Okay, so now you notice with all of these things we said here, nothing is showing up in this preview right now because there is nothing in the body of our website or of our page yet. So for us to be able to see something, we need to add elements to the body. So the first thing we are going to do is add an h1 element to our body with the name Camper Cafe, and then we close this. So immediately you can see now we now have an h1 element showing up. So whatever you have within this body is going to show up in the content page of your website. So let's check this out. Everything works fine. Let's submit this code and it's good. So immediately after this, we have other things to do. Let's add a p element below the h1. P element means a paragraph element. And then we're just going to add this text here that said 2020. And then we are going to close the p tag element. And then you can see and then we can submit this. So since the p element added in the previous step provides supplemental information about the cafe, so we can nest both h1 and p element in the header element. So now what is happening right now is that you see Camper Cafe and this, they are like the name and the slogan, right? Or like the subtitle where the year it was established and stuff like that. So this is a unique content. They should be grouped together, and this is what I discuss more about semantic. So semantic elements, right? So we have this element called header. So, and then we can close this element header. So this doesn't have any visual stuff showing, but then it gives us some sense of hierarchy here. That, oh, okay, we have this header, and this is a unified, this one group of content. You know, we can next both of them in one header. So because they are all I call it, like, it's a content that is have a single meaning. You know, they are grouped together because we have the header, and then we have, like, for instance, we can have something like a slogan in between your header. So all of this talks about an header element, and that is why we do this. So you have this header to just group elements that are related in context, and then we can put them in together in that context. So, and then we can submit our code. And then if you see now, we now have this amazing header here. So the next thing we want to do is to add a main element below the existing header. So we're going to have a main. So we have an header, and then we are going to have a main content. So the main content is going to contain every information about the pricing of our menu, right? So we can click that, and everything is working as fine. So good. So next thing we want to do, so there will be two sections on the menu, if you remember from the design we showed earlier. So I don't know if these have I don't want to go back, but you can see from what we showed, we have this menu, we have the coffee, and then we have the dessert. So there are two sections in the main content we are going to create. So in this section, so we are going to have this element called section. So we can clear this. So in this place, we can have the section for coffees. So another advantage of this is that I told you before, we have this MDN reference that every developer should have, like a Bible. So, and it's built into the free code camp IDE. So if you over any element, you get like a very short documentation about how it works, which is really amazing. And you can learn a lot from this. Like, if you don't know what is main, I don't understand what main is, just over it, and then you can see the main element represents the main content of the body of a document or application. So then you can look at section, or the section elements represent a generic section of a document. So they give all of this stuff, and even for every other HTML elements you can get, and then you can click on this. When you click on it, it takes you to the MDN reference, and then you can read more about it. So like I said, the MDN means Mozilla Developer Network. So you can see developer.mozilla.org, and they have a rich resource. It's like dictionary for web developer. So you should always go there if there is anything that you don't really understand that you want to learn more about, which is really, really good. Highly recommended. So now in this section, we have a section already. So we want to create an H2 element in this section, and we give it a coffee, right? And then we close the H2 element. How cool is that? So we have a section. So now this is all of our code. So we have the head, we have the body. In the body, we have the header. In the header, we have the main. In the main, we have one section and one more to go, which is coffee. So check our code. Yeah, so this is not working right now because I've not done this. So we need to do something now. So to start actually adding style, so until now we've been doing structure. So up until now you have been limited regarding the presentation and appearance of the content you create. To start taking control, add a style element within the head element. So we've just been applying, creating structure, the H1, the P element, HTML. There's no really style. They are all black and white. No, there's no color. There's no fanciness and anything. So one of the ways to add styling to our HTML is to use style. So we could add the style to the head section. So we call it style. You can see that. So within this style, all of our CSS style can go in here, and you see how we do that in a minute. And then when I do this, you can see now we have our HTML all added here, which is good. Now, very good. So the way CSS work is this. It's very, very simple. The way CSS work is you want to pick an element. Then when you pick that particular element, you want to set a CSS property of that element, a particular property of that element. And then you want to assign the value of what that element should be. So you can pick an element, let's say H1, and you pick a property that that element have, let's say font size. And then you want to set the value of that element, of that font size, should be maybe 30, maybe 45. Or you want to pick an element H1 and you want to set a property for, like, let's say color, and then you want to say red, black, white, yellow. And that is this basic principle of how cascading style should work. So let's try to add the style. So we want to center the H1 element by setting its text align property to the value center. So how do we do that? Remember the structure of our HTML style. This is the structure you follow. So write this down and always remember this all the time when you're styling your CSS. This is the signature for styling any CSS element. So the first thing we want to pick is the element H1, then open curly bracket. Then we want to style a property, text align, and then we want to give it a value center. See what happened now. Our Camper Cafe is now rightly centered in the page. How easy is that? That is so cool. And that is how CSS works. That is one of every CSS you are going to be seeing, or styling, still follows this same principle. Though there are different ways of selecting elements, which we are going to go into a little bit further in the future. But for now, just remember, this is the signature. The element, the property, and then the value. So let's check our code now. Everything is green. Let's submit this and move forward. So in the previous step, what we do is style H1. So we can style the H2 element also. So, but what we need to do is style each of them with each element one after the other. So this is just for it to be clear. We can, as we select H1, the same way we can select what? H2. Then text align, just like we did. And then center it. You can see our H2 is centered now. Then we can pick our P tag, text align, center it. You can see everything is now centered, just like applying the same principle to each one of them. We select P elements, we center it. H2 elements, text align, center it. H1 element, text align, center it. How cool is that? So let's submit this. Everything works fine, and we've been able to select the center all of our text on the page. let's move ahead now. So now just think about this. This H1, H2, and P, we are doing the same thing for the three of them. We are doing just the same thing. So how can we make it in such a way that we can just do like all of these three things once, and this test align can apply to the three of them? So this is where this selector comes in. So we have this selector 1, we have this selector 2, and then we have this property and then the value. If you read here, you see you now have 3 types selector with the exact same styling. So you can have the same group of styles to many elements by separating the selector with commas. So let's do this now. So what we have right now at the same time. So we can say H1, we can set H2. So now I can just remove this, and you can see that we still have H1, H2 test align. So we can also add p tag, and then we can remove this. How clean is that? Now we said, okay, every H1, every H2, and p tag on this particular HTML page should be test align, and everything is test aligned now. How cool is that? So you can select multiple elements and then apply some things to them, and then they will work. Like for instance, we can even say that, okay, we want all of this color to be red, and you see, and everything is now red. So how cool is that? So let's submit this and then move forward. Good. So this is really amazing. So in this particular style, so this is going to be I'll do 1 and 2 more lessons in this video, and then we're going to continue later, because this video I've run to like 32 minutes now, which I think is a little bit long. So, but because of the explanation, I want to make sure that every one of us gets the idea of what is happening here. So, because when you get this idea, it's very easy for you to be able to continue and start coding, and you can then continue to add and learn more about it. So, it's not just about just reading on Free Code Camp and going ahead. It's about you having understanding of principle around these things. So now it's possible for us to have, HTML here, and then we have the CSS, everything in one file, which is good. But then we can also separate our HTML and CSS. You understand? So that we can have like this, what we call separation of concerns. So we have CSS in one page, in one file, and then we have our HTML in another file. So that all of them are not like modeled together, and then our code can be more cleaner and easier to read. So now a style.css page have been created for you, and switch the editor view to that file. So you are in that file right now. So start by rewriting the styles you have created into the styles.css file. Make sure to exclude the opening and closing style tags. So right now, we don't need to, we could just write all of the CSS we've written before here in this styles.css. We don't need to add all this style and then this style stuff anymore. So what we could do is just have our style. And what is our style? We have H1 selected, we have H2 selected, and then we have p tag selected. And then what we want to do is test align property to be centered, and that's it. And let's check our code. Everything works fine, and then we can submit this. That is how cool it is. So now that you have the CSS style CSS file, so we can go ahead and remove this. So And it's just a rule of thumb. When you're trying to try something out, you can have your CSS in this place, but I will never recommend this in real life or even in learning. So this is just for us to like quickly introduce us to HTML or CSS styling. But in real world, you want to separate your CSS from your JavaScript, just like we did now. So we remove this. None that uses so you see that everything goes back. So why do you think everything go back to normal? Because our HTML right now have no knowledge of this. This exists, but our HTML have no idea where this is. It has no idea. So now we need to tell our HTML, oh, we have a CSS that we want you to use. And that is exactly what we are going to do right now. So, and this is something that a lot of beginners find very difficult to do. Like, okay, how do I link an external CSS to my style sheet? So what we need to do actually is to create what we call this element called link. And this element is actually self-closing. So, and it takes some attributes that we are going to put into it. You see link? The link element allow authors to link their document to other resources. So this link means that we want to link our document, this HTML, to other resources, and resources like HTML, like CSS, like JavaScript. So, but in this particular case, we are trying to link it to this style.css that we have created. So the first thing we want to do is we want to give it an attribute called rel, and then we call it style sheet. And then we want to give it another attribute called type, which is text CSS. So we're saying that, okay, we are linking the relative to the style sheets, and then the type is a text of CSS, and then we have the href. If you remember, we've done href before. Href is used to like link resources. So, and then we do style the CSS. Okay, so an href attribute with value of style.css. Okay. So we have a link element. Yeah, so what is wrong here? So with relative attribute, okay, yeah. So this attribute names a relationship of the link document. So the relationship is here is, do I messed up something? Okay, let's see. Style sheet. Okay, and then we have the type of text and CSS. And then we have this href. Okay, which is styles. So I misspelled this. Styles. You can see styles. So this is styles.css. So which is good. So be mindful of the spelling here. So I think that's what happened. Styles.css, which is good. So now we have our link with relevant style sheet and the type of text.css and then styles.css. So, and now our CSS here is now properly linked to this. So if I had, for us to be sure, maybe I should do the same thing that we did before and say blue, and then you can see we have a blue color. So that means our CSS has now been properly added to our HTML. And then if we check this code now, everything is working fine. So thank you very much for tuning in. So this is the end of this particular session, and then we're going to continue in the next session. So, but the most important thing we've done here is we've been able to write our HTML, and then we'll be able to style it, and then we've used external CSS that we create for separation of concerns. So now we have our index.html where we can write all our HTML code, and then we have the style.css where we can write all of our CSS code, and then we can work between the two of these files, and then we can have a clean code well separated. So thank you very much for joining this session. I want you to like, share it, and subscribe to this channel. So, and then I will see you in the next one. Thank you.